We've got a bit of a traffic situation right here. We've got Carl Douglas and Stan Van Gundy both at the same time because we have breaking news. And one of the items of breaking news we have is that Carl Douglas's background kicks the ass of Stan Van Gundy's background.
Yeah.
Carl Douglas.
There's no question
about
about
God,
that.
what an ass kicking. You've got some sad hotel. Some sad corner of a hotel. What city are you in? Is that Boston? That looks like sad Boston in the corner.
I'm in Boston. Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. You're in a sad Boston hotel, and Carl's coming to us. Is this Los Angeles, Carl?
It is beautiful downtown Los Angeles.
Carl's getting ready for work. He's done 50 years of civil rights pioneering in law.
It's an odd pairing.
It is an odd pairing. So, Stan, just wait.
And by the way, LeBatard, Carl's resume kicks your ass too. So don't just put that on me.
But not mine.
That's right. But my background is very nice. Carl's background is very nice. You look like sad, repressed Boston from a bygone age. But Carl, I wanted to bring you in here real quick because we're trying to put into some context the news that OJ Simpson has passed away. And you were introduced to us, I believe, in the OJ documentary that Ezra Edelman did that you somehow stole. How are we to take inventory of the entirety of this life? How are we supposed to meet the moment of now when at the end OJ Simpson was seen as someone who had gotten away with murder?
Dan, it's a complicated analysis. OJ was one of my heroes at USC. Over the course of my 44 years of being a lawyer, he was probably one of the most famous clients I ever represented. I was also a lawyer for Michael Jackson. And while I am shocked and saddened by his passing, certainly all of America will likely compartmentalize the complex nature of his history and his career. I pray and offer my condolences to his 4 children, who I'm sure are suffering from his loss.
You handled that nicely at the end because I don't know in such a polarizing case that I can meet the moment immediately after the death with anything other than a trilogy. But there are still people alive who are grieving the death at this very moment that if Carl Douglas is shocked by this, there are people, I don't know whether you loved O.J. Simpson or not. I don't know whether you guys had that relationship, but there are many people grieving right now. And some people would say, bleep that guy got away with murder.
My job as a criminal defense lawyer is to represent my clients to the fullest. And I'm proud of the work that me and 9 other lawyers performed in 1995 on behalf of OJ Simpson. I understand that the result of his trial has polarized much of America. I understand that probably for the rest of my life, my name will be linked with him. But I'm proud as an American lawyer of the job that me and my team performed on his behalf. And I will live with the consequences proudly of that verdict, no matter how controversial it may be for most of America.
Look at that smile he hit the dismount with. Stan, do you have any thoughts here? How am I find you, Stan. Your brother, I believe this is where sports met murder because his brother, Jeff Van Gundy, was in the middle of the series with the Houston Rockets that was interrupted by O.J. Simpson's A Fugitive. Now everyone gather around your television.
And I was outraged by it.
You were outraged because they...
Breaking into coverage.
That's right. How could you? It was the third quarter. Stan, what do you think of what it is that Carl Douglas just had to say there?
Well, I agree with all of it. And just a couple of thoughts. One is that I think that we too often want to just categorize people as either good or bad. And in reality, we're all a mixture of both. And we're not one or the other. Look, I'm a Bay Area guy in California. OJ Simpson was somebody I idolized, when he came up as a football player, and then followed him through his acting and the commercials. And look, things are complicated. And quite honestly, I don't know what happened on that night. we can all have our opinions. And then the second thing is Carl and that defense team should be proud because in our system, everyone is entitled to the strongest defense they can get. And as somebody who has at least nominal involvement with people in the criminal justice system, working at a prison and things like that, I think we have a lot of people in the system who haven't gotten that type of defense and have been unjustly convicted and incarcerated. So I applaud people like Carl.
And Dan, what's regrettable from my perspective, because being raised in Los Angeles, OJ Simpson was a hero for most of us in college. But there's an entire generation of Americans who don't know anything about his football career or how great of a running back he was. And regrettably, all that they will know or remember from OJ Simpson on this day were the tragic events of June of 1994. That is, I think, regrettable.
O.J. Simpson also, at the end, is viewed by, I would think, a majority of Americans as someone who got away with murder. You are not defined by your worst act. No one would want to be. But if that is the viewpoint at the end of your career, I don't know how many people want to hear today that with, like me, O.J. Simpson is literally my portal to loving sports. The first time my father took me to watch anything in person was at the Orange Bowl to watch him be a running back for the Buffalo Bills. It's literally the first sports thing I saw. And then that career, one of the most interesting in the history of American pop culture.
He was a great player, Dan.
At the end of it, what a lot of people are seeing, and only this, is that today the Goldmans will come out, and this will all be reopened for them, and they will not handle this with grace. They will, I would assume, they will urinate on his grave because they're grieving too.
Well, but Dan, first of all, I would say when you said a majority of Americans think he got away with murder, that's probably true because we're a majority white country, but I'm not sure that the majority of Black Americans believe that. I know plenty of people, plenty of well-known people, I'm not going to throw their names out there and put them in the middle of controversy, but I know plenty of them, a couple who knew OJ well as an athlete, who don't think he did it. Intelligent people who watch that trial and don't think he did it. So it's more polarizing than people just thinking he got away with murder. And I think Carl made the point when he first spoke here today that I think was good in his grief for OJ's children. I think the one thing we could all agree with, his children had nothing to do with anything that happened to Nicole Brown Simpson. And this is not only a rough day for them, but as you say, it's going to open up the wound and make it even harder for them. And as someone who has recently gone through my kids losing a parent, this is going to be a very, very tough time. And I'm glad Carl brought that up. And hopefully all of us, regardless of whatever we think about that case, can have some empathy for OJ's family.
Stan, I agree 100%. Despite everything that people may think, despite all of the lingering bad feelings that I'm sure exist, despite how the racial dynamics that were present then in 1995, regrettably, are still present today in 2024, there are 4 children who have lost their father, and we must never lose sight of that fact.
There's also the families of the victims who now are going to have to relive the trauma of this trial, I think, while this is all being brought up today. So I think we should also feel empathy for them because, obviously that's difficult too. And I think there's a lot of complicated aspects to it, like you said, Carl, because there is the case and then there is the person himself. And one of those things I think is incredibly complicated. And one of them, I feel like we're kind of tiptoeing around something here, which is that O.J. Simpson, to a lot of people, represents someone who brutally abused and battered his wife even before she died. So I just think we should probably hold some space for her family as well.
Indeed, indeed. But as well for particularly many Black and brown citizens in this country, the OJ Simpson trial reflected a racial break, if you will, and it highlighted, I think, some of the inequities that Stan mentioned that are still present in terms of the inability of many defendants to properly be able to mount a defense. OJ had millions of dollars at his disposal, and he was willing to use that money in his own behalf. And only because he had so much money was the defense able to match the awesome power of the prosecution. All too often in public defender agencies across this great nation of ours, there is a lack of money or resources so that defendants can mount a credible attack against the prosecution that comes at them. But of course, Jessica, we must always remember that two people lost their lives at a time that was far too short for them. And we must always remember their families and their losses as well.
Absolutely. Carl, I commend the work that you did as a defender, because that is a right in America, I believe, and one that is often abused.
Roy, did you have something here for Carl?
Yeah, Carl, I have a legal question here. The Goldman family and Fred Goldman are still owed money from OJ from the civil verdict. What happens now?
I doubt, Roy, that there will ever be a legal mechanism that will enable them to receive a penny if they have not gotten anything in almost 30 years. OJ's funds were protected because he had a pension, both from the Screen Actors Guild and the NFL, which basically allowed him to receive upwards of $20,000 a month during the entirety of since 1995, I am sure. And because the Goldmans have been unable, despite tremendous attempts over the years, to get compensation for their verdict, I doubt in his death that they will be able to do any more now.
Carl, I know that you're very busy. Thank you for the time today. You've always been a good friend to the show. On your way out, because I don't know what this day is going to be like for you, I imagine you're going to be jostled because this is going to bring back a time in your life, a different time in your life. A generation ago, you've been very close to America shaking around racially and elsewhere, legally, around everything OJ. So tell us here at the end, eulogize him, would you, for us on the spot as someone who was adjacent enough to handle something like this?
OJ was an American icon in several different respects. Not only was he a great athlete, he was also one of the first athletes that were able to cross over into the commercial world of Hollywood and New York. And he set the stage before Michael Jordan, before Tiger Woods, for athletes to make millions and indeed billions because of their popularity across the face of this great nation. Regrettably, that stellar career was marred by this trial. And forever, I'm sure, in the minds and the legacies of many, that stain on his career will remain. Rest in peace, OJ. My love to your sons and your daughters.
Carl, thank you for the time, sir.
That glove didn't
Dan,
fit, Carl.
Always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, guys. I've been away too long. I love you guys.
Right. We love you too. The glove didn't fit, though.
It didn't fit,
The glove
Carl.
didn't fit.
I mean, come
All
on.
those attorneys, everything
I've talked
else,
to you about this, Carl. It didn't
the glove
fit.
didn't fit.
He must
The
have quit.
glove didn't fit. Absolutely
Yeah.
right.
All right.
Didn't
Okay.
fit.
Ridiculous. The whole thing.
Absurd.
Asinine. Carl, thank you for being on with us.
Always a pleasure, buddy. Stay well.
I believe that is the strangest onboarding of Stan Van Gundy that we've ever done.
And we've had some strange ones, I
we
think.
yelled at him about his background, and then we told him, I don't know if he already knew the news or not, but then we just did a news program, broke out around Stan Van Gundy.
Oh, Stan was ready to go.
He really was.
Yeah.
This is one of the great things about you, Stan, is you can go history professor, sociology guy. You're a very versatile basketball creature. You looked riveted right there. We were entertaining you.
Well, no, but I remember the case vividly, and I remember the aftermath. You know, I was working with Bob McAdoo with the Heat, and Bob and OJ were good friends from their time in Buffalo together when Bob was playing for the Braves, and OJ obviously was dominating the NFL for the Bills. And so getting his perspective on things was a lot different, and it was, I don't know if my first time, maybe Rodney King was the first time, but certainly one of the first times at OJ trial where it really opened my eyes to the racial differences in how we just view the criminal justice system. I mean, I always knew it, but where it really became, vivid to me on the look. And that's why I said what I did. There's to this day, and I know the people, there are a lot of Black Americans who think that was a just verdict. And, so yeah, while certainly the vast majority of white America thinks that OJ Simpson got away with murder, that's not necessarily the view in the Black community for a lot of different reasons.
Stan, isn't that the reason? Like, is that where you, obviously a left-leaning Marxist, isn't that where you started to become woke? Like right there, just talking to Black people about, oh, I didn't know that about our justice system.
Well, I would just say my entire life experience of being in basketball is probably what made me woke. And certainly when you get to the NBA, but even before that in college, I mean, the majority of people you work with are, from a different background than mine. And so when you care about those people and you get to know them on a deeper basis and learn their thoughts and perspectives, it certainly opens up a different way of thinking than, what I would have otherwise. So, but I remember Rodney King, and I remember that trial probably like my kids, when they look back from my age, will, remember George Floyd and that summer. I mean, they were certainly seminal events. And I can remember people sitting around watching the trial. I can remember the OJ trial. I can remember everybody, it seemed like everybody sitting in front of the TV waiting for the verdict.
The OJ trial, sort of pre-internet, feels like the last moment America shared around its television consuming something. I don't know if I have the history of it
Caitlin
right.
Clark.
Yes.
It's true.
Thank you.
Other than Caitlin Clark, yes. Thank you.
Stugotz always puts things in perfect
Thank you, Stan.
He does. Stan, Stugotz also has from yesterday another top 5 list of top 5 athletes who connote prayer. Are you ready? He gave us a top 5 list that I didn't think could be any better.
That connote prayer?
Yes, that connote.
Yes.
You'll hear the names and then you'll understand. Do you have yesterday's?
Yeah, this was yesterday's
All right,
list.
So this is yesterday's. Just give Stan yesterday's.
Garrett Temple, Neil O'Donnell, God Shamgod,
Yes.
Cantavius Caldwell Pope,
Yeah.
Malik Monk,
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn, Priest Holmes.
So it was more than 5.
We have more.
That was yesterday. I didn't think it could be better than that, but he says now he's got a new number 5 list, top 5 list. Number 5.
Von Wafer,
Oh, the communion wafer. Nice. Number 4.
Enos Cantor,
Number 3.
Michael Bishop,
Number 2.
Tim Tebow.
I don't get that one.
Tim Tebow
Prayer.
created his own.
Come on. Stan, are the Bucks in trouble? Because
Number one.
the Greek Freak went down, and I think that's major news right before the playoffs. What do you think about the Bucks' chances moving forward?
Sister Jean.
It got worse as it went on, Stugotz.
How's that possible? He got some applause yesterday.
I left out Edwin Moses.
He got some applause yesterday, and then the list kept getting worse. But Juju
See,
had...
Edwin Moses is a good one. You should have started with him.
All right, Stan, to Juju's point, let's do this as quickly as we can because there's a bunch of interesting stuff in basketball. Would you agree with me that if we reseeded everybody in a jumble, Boston would be the 1 seed, and the next 10 seeds would be from the West?
No, I would say that the number 2 seed is Philadelphia with a healthy Joel Embiid. 30-8 on the year with Joel Embiid, a higher winning percentage than what Boston has. If he's healthy and in shape, I think they are the biggest threat to the Celtics in either division.
I legitimately had forgotten about them because he's been out
course.
all season.
Yes.
But the last 5 games, they've looked at, and if he can stay healthy, a giant if. I stand corrected. You don't believe Boston has a weakness, though, do you? Or are you somebody that says, nope, empirically, late in games, they might not be mentally weak, but they're not getting the shots they need late in close games?
Well, I would agree with the last part. I don't really like the shots they get down the stretch. But listen, we're nitpicking to find weaknesses with them. And we got to remember, this is not the NCAA tournament where you've just got to beat them once. You got to beat them 4 times. I mean, I have a hard time seeing anybody doing that. The 2 teams I think are probably closest to them are Philly, like I said, and then Denver. And I do think they have a little problem. Look, to combat the teams with great centers, then they've got to play Horford big minutes, which takes Porzingis off the floor a little bit more. And Porzingis is a huge part of the matchup problems they create. So I do think those 2 teams would have a chance. I don't think anybody else does. I think it would have to be either an injury to Boston or just a major meltdown on Boston's part for anybody other than those 2 teams to beat them.
Stugotz is bored by the greatness of Jokic. I've been told that we have a song now to celebrate the boring, droning greatness of Jokic.
Here's a stat of the day from that big man, Nikola. Godlike skills put on display, but we're feeling so blasé, setting records all the time. We've become so indifferent. We're all bored, but what the hey? Jokic stat of the day.
So this is Stugotz's idea. He thinks we should give it like while yawning, like having difficulty.
We should, yes.
Last night in a game they had to have, Jokic, 41 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, shot 80% from the field, 100% from 3.
And by the way, against the guy, Dan, that people think will win his 4th defensive player of the year this year.
Boring.
You tell me, Stan, is he the best offensive basketball player there has ever been?
Whoa.
Well, you can make a case for him being the best offensive center. I think actually the best offensive player now that I have ever seen is Luka Doncic.
Okay, so we've gotten there.
Did you see MJ?
No, hold on a second.
I
Stan,
did see MJ. I did.
Stan,
Just making
Stan,
sure.
let's go. Stan, you got to give me the take. Let's hear it.
Well, listen, I just don't think there's anything the guy can't do offensively. He's absolutely huge, first of all. I mean, he's 6'8" and big. He shoots the ball from deep. Now, I wouldn't have said this even a year and a half, 2 years ago. He's become a more consistent shooter from range. His range is incredible, and he's been very efficient shooting the ball. He can drive the ball from the perimeter. He can score in the post, and he's one of the best passers we have ever had in the league. There is literally no one who can match up with him. And when you bring the second defender, he can pick you apart. Look, I think when we incorporate both ends of the floor, there's guys who I would say have been better players than he is right now. But as strictly offensive players, I think he's the best I've ever seen.
He just asked you, he really did that to Stan Van Gundy. Have you seen MJ? That's what
I have, but
Have
I
you
think
seen Malachi
Doncic,
Flynn?
listen, it was a different game. And so had Jordan come up in this game, maybe he would have shot the three as frequently and as well as Doncic did. And he certainly, MJ got to the point where he shot the three well. It just wasn't a volume 3-point league. So maybe he would have evened him up on that part. Jordan certainly wasn't a bad passer, but he was not Luka Doncic as a passer. And he did not have Luka's size and strength. I just, look, I'm not trying to demean Michael Jordan in any way, or LeBron James for that matter, but Luka Doncic to me is at a different level offensively.
Stan, real quickly, Adam Silver said what Jonte Porter did was the cardinal sin and could face banishment. Do you have any opinions on what that young brother did?
Well, first of all, we don't know what he did or didn't do. So accusations are one thing, allegations, but we'd have to see proof. But I do think that betting on games is pretty bad. Like, the one thing you want as a sports fan to know is the integrity of the game. If somebody's messing with that or potentially messing with that, and that's why the point shaving scandals over the years have been bad. Now, I will say this, Jonte Porter is never in a position, I don't mean to demean the guy, but he can't affect the outcome of games. He just doesn't play a big enough role. So I wouldn't call it the cardinal sin. But if you had a guy gambling and he were getting playing time, well, then you'd have a pretty bad situation.
Stan, in fairness to Michael Jordan, MJ, it's hard to pass with all those rings on your fingers.
Thank you, Stan. It's nice seeing you again. He's in Boston. He's doing it better than anyone is out there. Did you want to preview the game, or is that promotion enough? Is there something that you want to say to?
You know what? You know how these late season games are. We don't know. It's a big game for the Knicks. We have absolutely no idea how Boston will play it. I don't know who they'll play, who they won't play.
Okay.
So, no, I don't
all right, that's fine. That's an excellent promotion. I love that. That's great.
Sold.
That's it. That's perfect advertising for the game, the national game on TV.
I was going
tonight.
to watch. Now I'm not
Holy,
gonna...
that was a sales job. That was so bad. He couldn't even fake it. Don't watch the game.
Peyton Pritchard.
Please watch anyway.
Stugotz, there were so many things that I wanted to get to today.
The Masters.
Drew Holiday. The Masters is starting today. Drew Holiday, Amin, our basketball expert, called him a corpse. Just signed a 4-year, $135 million extension 9 months after it felt like Jimmy Butler Jimmy Butler had Drew Holiday talking about retirement.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Why are you talking with your chest like that, Jeremy, as if you're Jimmy Butler?
I mean, because I said it was going to happen, and then it happened.
But he just signed an extension.
Everyone else here takes victory laps. Why can't I?
He seems to have recovered, Drew Holiday has.
I like to start a motion. Ever since Amin in that jump shot situation and these picks of corpse, like, he is no longer my basketball expert. I do not respect that anymore. I feel like I watch more basketball than Amin. He didn't even watch the college game. He was bored. Real hoopers, where are you at? Like, starting tonight, I am going to be going live on YouTube after NBA games where we just talk NBA, bro. We're going to talk about what happened in the NBA, not our opinions on their politics, not that we love Terry Rozier's lips are turning black. No, we're going to talk about the game. Tune in, lock in with us.
I just discovered that there's a show tonight. Tell me who's on.
So did I, goddammit.
All right. So
I think you just made it up right now.
You're done. You're done waiting for these people to make you a star. You're taking over the YouTube channel, and tonight you're going to be doing basketball analysis. You're doing the Juju show.
No, it's not gonna be the Juju show. We probably call it the alley oop or something clever. But we're just gonna
Ooh, the
keep it like
alley-oop.
Well, not the Bulls alley oop, I hope.
The basketball show.
no Andre Drummond. But look, at the end of the day, we need a place for just hoopers who love this show to actually congregate, and we're gonna start that tonight. Amino Hassan, we love you, salute to you, but you are no longer the expert.
Wow.
So you're saying that is it going to be Tony? You and Tony are trying to
Come on,
claim
Dan.
Amin's throne because you believe you're watching more basketball than he
It's
is.
just gonna be real hoopers from around the land. We might see. You never know who you might see on this show. We might see Uncle Shannon Sharp. We might see. Bro, we just stay tuned, lock in with us because we're gonna get the most brilliant basketball minds to come on and talk basketball.
The I love you with a salute is the greatest device ever when you're about to crush someone. It is so good. I'm so proud of you, Juju.
Salute to Tom Haberstroh.
Well, but Juju,
Big salute.
Juju just stole a show and the YouTube channel. Has just told us that he's doing a show tonight, and I'm sure he will cover basketball well. I don't understand some of what's happening in football analysis, where all of a sudden everyone's telling me JJ McCarthy is something special. I thought Michigan was trying to hide him all year. I thought that the big story in that sport last year is that Harbaugh parlayed flaming cheating scandal at his alma mater into a dream job next to Herbert. And now he's telling me how good JJ McCarthy is. And I'm like, yeah, behind 4 other guys who are better. Like, I'm not even sure if Caleb Williams, I legitimately think Penix is the best of all of them.
Right. Me 3.
Wait, so you want Harbaugh to come out and slam the guy that won him a national championship?
I want to understand why J.J. McCarthy is climbing so high in the rankings when I saw a quarterback that he was trying to hide all of last year.
Because he's a quarterback and teams have need at that position and out, after the top 3. Like there are 6 or 7 teams who need a quarterback.
The top
Dan.
16 has a lot of teams that need a quarterback.
But you'll talk yourself into a J.J. McCarthy if you have to. You will. As a team, as a coach, you'll talk yourself into, hey, I can make J.J. McCarthy a great quarterback.
I think this happens every year, and the issue is the draft is too far away. We have so much time in between the end of the college season and the NFL draft that you sit there long enough, 4 months, you can convince yourself anyone is going to be a star.
And if you stare at a picture of J.J. McCarthy, I learned this from Colin Cowherd several years ago. There's guys who have quarterback face. And if you stare at a picture of J.J. McCarthy for long enough during an offseason, that guy has quarterback face.
Stugotz, the death of OJ Simpson here is resonating on all of the televisions. I don't know if there are a lot of people that we can name that would die and then land in this many different places, because these are just sports channels that are up here. But 30 years ago, America paused because they thought he was a fugitive from justice, and that O.J. Simpson was trying to make the ride from top of pop culture celebrity nice guy to fleeing as a fugitive from police and suicidal, wondering whether he was going to kill himself during an NBA final game while his friend drove him around on a highway where he was just being pursued slowly by the police and helicopters.
I'm certain it's on CNN also. I'm certain it will lead most national news tonight. ABC, NBC, CBS. It will lead the news tonight. And if you're asking how many athletes or how many former athletes could pass away and get the same coverage, not many. Like, you would have to be a massive superstar. It would have to be like Michael Jordan for it to hit all those different outlets.
Kobe landed this way because of the sudden shock of it. This is the history of it. This is not the sudden shock of it, because he's of an age that you're just being hit with memories there. An assortment of generations are being hit with memories because this man was famous for 50 years, and he went from famous to infamous to vastly, vastly more famous. And so he dies at the end, and everyone has an association with that name, knows that name, and attaches some kind of thing to it. Like, it's not just O.J. Simpson died and now I don't have any emotions about that. It stirs something in just about everyone listening to this. Very few people listening to this don't know who that is, and many know for different reasons. Like, once upon a time, when I tell you it's not just the whole murder trial and where it foisted race in our face that made Stan Van Gundy look up and be like, okay, how can people look at the same set of facts so differently? How is life imprinting changing us so much that white people are watching black people celebrate what they think is a black man getting away with murder, when what black people were celebrating is finally one of ours gets away from a criminally corrupt justice system. And so the America came apart in the division of that, where white people were crestfallen, feeling betrayed by their legal system, as black people were telling you just around the Rodney King Los Angeles stuff. No, we've been telling you for years that this whole system is lopsided against us. That if OJ Simpson can't beat it, you'll say it's about money and everything else, but we'll say he can't beat it because he's black, because a black person can never get away with something like that.
And I understand that, but it was so obvious.
To white people.
Yeah.
I mean, in retrospect, I believe he did it. But again, it's a two America situation. Like, this justice system, like, we've seen black people go to prison or get executed for crimes they actually did not commit. So this is a huge reversal of fortune it was a huge reversal of fortune for OJ Simpson to get acquitted like this.
And he became a symbol for a lot of different things. And I don't know how to commemorate all of that without also pointing out that across those 30 years, the Goldman family has been broken and bitter in front of you in a way that is totally understandable, resentful and coming after every measure of money and justice because they feel like they know the truth.
I feel like we did a pretty good job. Like, I feel like we kind of held space for all of these things. Not to, pat ourselves on the back like
But
Jeremy
you're doing
just
it.
did.
No, we covered this.
We had fucking Carl Douglas on. Like,
Yeah.
how many other shows are going to get Carl Douglas
Nobody.
on 10 minutes after the news breaks?
Yeah.
You're right, Jessica. We deserve to pat ourselves on the back.
Somebody pat me on the
Sometimes,
back.
what I mean?
We have a minute left.
Back
Do you want
listen.
our top 5 Pixar movies? Or
How did you guys turn O.J. Simpson talk into patting ourselves on the back for our
I mean,
coverage?
it's hard
deserve
to
it.
live produce a very famous person
For just leaving,
dying.
but we left space for
been doing it for
everybody's
20
feelings.
years.
It was
Did you
very
see
nice.
Catherine Zeta-Jones and dipping below the lasers. That's the segments we just did.
Really?
Wait, you mean like Ocean's 12?
It was
Entrapment.
Lord,
That was Entrapment with Sean
yes.
Connery.
Great movie.
It
Because
is.
she's not in Ocean's 12, but someone dips below the laser, the French guy. He was a
That
real
was a French dipper.
Le Batard, if you know what I mean.
I'd love to end this segment with Catherine Zeta-Jones slipping through the lasers.
And so would I.
Love her in Chicago. Speaking of alley
it's a good one.
Good musical. Yeah, sure. I don't like musicals though.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
You don't like musicals?
She
No.
dips
Just
between lasers.
the Blues Brothers. That's it.
You ever see Joseph?
No.
Joseph was good.
Joseph?